the marketing coordinator for the Metropolitan Business League, Melody Short, and she is going to welcome you and introduce our first speaker. Melody, please go ahead whenever you're ready.
So much and welcome everybody. On behalf of the Metropolitan Business League, our board of directors and CEO Floyd Miller, I'd like to welcome you to our virtual town hall series, created to ensure we continue our efforts and our commitment to small women and minority-owned businesses and show our ability to pivot during unprecedented times. The continuation of this series, which launched in April, will focus on the recovery period for businesses impacted by COVID-19. We invite you to learn more about the MBL, to include programming and opportunities we create specifically for MBL members, to include our current opportunity, which we're so excited about, the MBL Small Business Recovery Fund, which actually we launched last week. It's our effort to show our commitment to members that are recovering from COVID during this time. The MBL recognizes that COVID-19 has put a difficult burden on the small business community. So while there are many loan opportunities available on the local and state and federal level, we understand that not all businesses are able to take on debt during this challenging time. And so in response to this, the MBL has established this fund, which is a grant valued at $1,000 to $5,000 for recipients to provide small women and minority-owned businesses with emergency grant funds during this world crisis. We have to say thank you to our partners that have afforded us this opportunity to make this happen, to include Wells Fargo Bank, the Community Foundation, and the Robbins Foundation. They are the initial investors to see this first round of funding. But in addition, we partner with LISC Virginia to provide all grant recipients with complimentary small business advisory sessions. So we encourage you to apply today. If you have not done so, all MBL members should be applying. You can access the grant application on our website, thembl.org. Click on our resources tab, and there you'll find information to include the application to apply. Your application has to be submitted by tomorrow, Friday, May 29th by 5 p.m. We have something special for non-members as well. We're offering individuals and small business owners free membership through June 30th. So this allows individuals to take advantage of our membership offerings now at no cost. We encourage all to spread this word to your colleagues, anyone in your network. Again, this can be accessed on our website, thembl.org. They can sign up easily on our website. And then also visit us just so that you can continue staying looped in on ways in which you can support the MBL so that we can continue doing the important work of serving the small business community. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our speaker today, our first speaker, I should say, for today, and that would be Christian Mosier. He is the district manager at ADP, helping small business clients retain top talent, increase cash flow, and stay compliant. Take it away, Christian.
All right, good morning. Can you all hear me? Awesome, cool. Well, I hope everyone is having a great day so far. It's not a beautiful day outside, but we'll work with it. And can you all see my screen? Good here? Awesome. Well, once again, thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Melody, for letting me present for a few minutes here. I'm not sure if I'll take the whole 10 minutes, talk a little fast, but we'll see how it goes. So what I want to talk to you guys about today are three topics, pretty basic topics, but I think it can add value, especially during times like these. Three topics include attract and retain top talent, especially as a small business owner. I'm sure that's constantly on the mind. The second topic would be navigating compliance and law changes. So we've been seeing this a lot lately, especially in my line of work, all the different law changes with COVID and the different stimuli packages and the different things going on. And then finally, the new world of remote workers and productivity and kind of what that looks like moving forward even after this pandemic. So let's get this thing started. So first off, how to find and keep top talent during and even after COVID-19. So here's a little stat here. So research done by us, by ADP, in the last few months has concluded that 80% of employees would choose a job with benefits over an identical job that offered 30% more salary, but no benefits whatsoever. And so this was done, I think the study was done in December. I would be willing to bet that now that percentage has gone even higher up. So I work with, just to give you a little background, I work with about 220 small business clients around the area. And I also, of course, constantly try to find new business and different things like that. But a lot of my clients come to me and, they're like, Christian, like my employees, especially now, they're asking what benefits am I offering? Am I offering health, especially with COVID-19? That's a huge one. So the little bullet below, 71% of employees agree that health is the number one benefit influencing their decision to accept a new job. And like I said, I'd be willing to bet that's a little higher right now, especially with all the anxiety and all the uncertainty that comes, with, of course, being in this pandemic and COVID-19. So one thing I will say, health, obviously, if you guys have it already, if you look at it, is not obviously a cheap benefit. But one of the benefits that I do want to mention that is very cheap and that can actually increase productivity is PTO. So we see it a lot. So I'll just read a little stat from Forbes, actually, that said 68% of employees actually don't use their full vacation. And in fact, they're actually afraid to because their companies don't want or don't encourage them to take it. Their employers aren't like, hey, you need to take vacation. It's kind of an unwritten rule almost. But on the other side, 78% of employers say the employees who do utilize their PTO, take 2, 3, 4, whatever it might be your policy, weeks off year, actually increase productivity. So one of the things that you could do, especially right now during, obviously this pandemic, is to encourage your employees to take a day off. Take 2 days off, especially in the remote world. And with all the transition, encourage your employees that you're there for them. And that's the biggest thing. So topic 2, this is navigating compliance and law changes. So I'll just read a little statistic here. 80% of an HR department's time is spent on administration and paperwork. That sounds awesome. That sounds fun. But as a small business owner, especially if you don't have many employees, you are the HR department. So you are the one who is spending all the time on administration work, on paperwork. And especially now, especially with PPP, all the reporting, all the criteria that's going to happen in order for this thing to turn into a grant, the last thing you need to do, especially during this time, is to take your focus off revenue generating activities and put it towards administrative work. So one of the biggest things I say is you need to have a system in place, whether that's outsourcing like ADP, whether that's an HR consultant that you need to have someone or something in place that can really allow you to take advantage of this time and not allow you to get bogged down with administration issues. So like, for example, some of the top HR questions I hear, I assume they're probably pretty similar to what you guys hear. Of course, like, hey, how am I going to onboard someone virtually? Like, what does that look like? What does that even look like in this environment? What do I do? Do I W-2? Do I 1099? That goes back to the benefit equation. And then, of course, know when to pay overtime and different things like that. So you need to have, like I said, something or someone in place that you can go to that you're not Googling all the time, like, hey, what's the new overtime rules, right? What is the new PPP reporting? What's going on there? I will say that initial guidance on the loan forgiveness for the PPP for those who qualified and those who did receive it has been released. And one of the things I could do, if you want to send me an email or let me know, I could send you a link on exactly what that looks like and what you need to do as a small business owner in order for this thing to turn into a grant. And then the third topic I'll say right here is the new world of remote workers and productivity. So a big word we use a lot, and a lot of my small business owners use a lot, is adaptability. So obviously this thing is as much as we hate to admit it, even in my role, it's going to change a lot. A lot more is going to be virtual. You might have more Zoom meetings. You might have more employees that want to work from home because they obviously know they don't have to commute. They don't have to do things like that. So just a couple statistics I really want you guys to be aware of. These both came from an article in Forbes a couple months back in March. And so companies that embrace remote work have a 25% lower turnover. So you want to talk another benefit about retaining and keeping top talent is being flexible, especially now. I assume a lot of you all are flexible, but even after this gets lifted, all the guidelines, and hopefully we get a vaccine, you need to have the ability to see like, okay, should I allow this person to work remote? Obviously, all jobs can't be remote. You can't build a building remotely. But depending on the line of work, that's the decision you have to ask yourself. Because Forbes states that teleworkers are on average 35 to 40% more productive, and they have a higher increase in output. And so, especially with the transition, just a couple tips on managing workers. And like I said, when I have all these conversations with my clients and stuff, just a couple quick tips. Establish daily check-ins, whether it's Zoom, whether it's a conference call, but as the owner or as a manager or as a leader, one of the biggest things you can do for your team is let them know that you're there. Let them know that if they need anything, they can obviously come to you. And then, of course, offer any encouragement, emotional support, especially with everything that's going on now. So in wrap up, the takeaway I want you all to have, I made it pretty simple. So in order to thrive after COVID-19 and obviously during it, you and your business have to be adaptable. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Things are going to change as much as we hate to admit it. Things are going to change. They change in March, but from here on out, it's going to look a lot different. So I urge, especially, like I said, if you're a manager, leader, small business owner, I urge you to do these three things. Look at your current benefit plan and see what's going on. Maybe you already have a great health plan, or maybe you're losing people because you don't. Maybe your employees are working too much. Maybe you need to establish more boundaries. I would highly, highly advise to look at your current plan and see if there's anything you can do to help, because especially right now, employees need it. Two, of course, is have a system in place. Like I said, whether it's us, whether it's a consultant, whatever it is, you do need to have someone there so you're not constantly fielding legal changes, legislative changes, HR changes, employees. You need something there really to take your time back and focus on what matters. And then three, I say allow flexible work arrangements if possible. One, the statistics show that your workers are more productive. Two, it boosts company culture and boosts morale. And three, if you can do it, I guarantee you'll see or if you can make it possible, I guarantee you'll see an increase in employee output. So once again, I appreciate you taking the time, and I'll turn it over for any questions you guys might have.
Thanks so much, Christian. That was great. Somebody started conversation in the chat about unlimited time off. So that would be me. I'm chief instigator of unlimited time off. So I don't know that you could talk much about it, but we'll save it for Q&A. So it'll come back up about maybe some of the pros and cons too. I know that's been a big question, especially during this time of the flexibility of unlimited time off and what that actually means and all of that. Also, I really just kind of want to know for myself.
Sure.
So thanks so much. So that was really good. Very, very, very good. Good information. We really, really appreciate that, Christian.
Thank you.
So Christian will be available with us in just a little bit, in about another 20 minutes or so. We'll be opening it up to Q&A. But at this point, we're going to hear from our next presenter, who is Kennon Artis. He's the founder of Triton Light Medical. In 2017, Mr. Artis founded and has grown Triton Light Medical, which is a small business in Virginia. As the president, he has developed and is realizing the vision of becoming a trusted supplier of medical devices, equipment, and provide services to the Department of Veteran Affairs and the Commonwealth of Virginia and other nationally recognized healthcare systems. In doing so, Mr. Artis has developed and built business relationships with individuals globally. So, Mr. Kennon Artis, I know that you are an expert in your field, and we'd love to hear more about what you have to share.
Great, thanks, Andrea. Can everyone hear me okay?
You sound great.
Terrific. Thanks so much. I just want to thank you and Melody and Floyd Miller and the rest of the good folks at the MBL. who allowed me this opportunity just to kind of have a conversation with you here for the next couple minutes. Like Chris, I'm not sure that I've got 10 minutes worth of material. I tend to talk a little fast or what have you, but we'll just kind of see. As Andrea had pointed out, Triton Light Medical is a local Chesterfield-based organization. It was founded about 3.5, 4 years ago, and we've been in the medical field. We've supplied everything from surgical instruments to crash carts to medical-grade refrigerators and freezers, and even American Red Cross training for employees and the like. At the turn of this year, right, January, we knew relatively little, right, about the infectious diseases and cleanliness in the way that controls or at least tries to eliminate infectious diseases and the like. And then we were kind of thrust with COVID, the outbreak of COVID-19. We were kind of thrust into that industry, and we had to learn quick. And so I'm glad I've got this chance just to kind of share what we have learned here over the last couple of weeks. Or rather months. So one of the things that we really dialed up when COVID-19 hit, and organizations nationally have identified the need, is for PPE, right, personal protective equipment, and disinfectants and antimicrobials and all of those cleaning agents and the like. We also developed an understanding of COVID, right? COVID-19 and how it, how it moves, how it doesn't move, and those that are under greatest threat and the like. Couple things that have come to light for us. One is that we as a medical industry still have lots and lots to learn. There's a lot of uncertainty about COVID-19 and the coronavirus. How it's transmitted, how long it stays around, this whole idea of immunity and the like. And that, by definition is scary, right? The COVID-19 has been designated by the WHO as a pandemic, right? And by definition, right, pandemics don't occur every month or every year, or what have you, right? I mean, these are kind of once in a lifetime events for folks. And so by definition, this pandemic, this whole notion is unfamiliar to folks. So there's a lot of uncertainty. One thing that we do know, one thing that the medical experts do know, is that this is going to be around for a while, right? And we as small business owners and those responsible for keeping our employees and other stakeholders safe, is that we've got to have solutions and strategies for that make sense. We also know that in the wake of a several-month close down as a nation, that we've got to reopen, right? We've got to figure out how to coexist with COVID-19 and reopen our organizations in a way that is safe. And that's the big question that we've gotten and that we've heard from a number of different folks nationally. Kennon, help us understand, how do we reopen safely, right? In doing some research and just kind of in being in the industry here of late, there are a couple of thoughts that come to mind in answering that. One is thoughtfully, right? You reopen thoughtfully. It's more than just kind of unlocking the door and inviting folks in. What you'll need to do, and what I strongly recommend you do, is that you open thoughtfully and methodically, and that may include a policy. Right, as a small business owner, a lot of times we think of our operations as one that is not really rooted in a lot of methodical things like developing policies and the like. However, as it comes to this uncertain, dangerous, deadly coronavirus, there are a couple things that we want to make sure that we keep in mind. As we reopen, we want to do so in a way so as to keep our employees as safe as possible, right? We don't want employees to come back to work, or any stakeholders to come back to work and get sick again, right? And just kind of go through this cycle once again. We want to make sure that we project employee confidence, right? If employees show up and they see that you've got measures in place, and they see that you all have a policy in place, that helps you deal as best you can with COVID and defending against it, then it's gonna buttress their confidence and help drive greater performance among employees. And then let's face it, we're a very litigious society, right? And if someone were to come into your storefront, let's say that you do operate a retail location, and they say, hey, look, I got COVID after going to Acme Inc., right? And I just wanted to stop in and buy a trinket or a cookie or whatever your place of business specializes in, but I got COVID-19 as a result. Then that could be a challenge, right, to you as a small business owner or someone responsible for these sorts of things. So if we've got a thoughtful, methodically rolled out policy in place that really kind of helps in reopening in support of defending in a safe way. What we have found in talking to folks is that inevitably there are one or two types of people in organizations that are having questions about this whole reopening safely. They may be the leaders of a back to work task force that may have been hastily put together. They may be chief operating officers or individuals, leaders in larger organizations, or folks that have that level of responsibility. And they generally don't have a clue, because recall, this is a pandemic and this isn't something that they're necessarily have gone to school for or have dealt with in the past. And so they're looking for these kinds of resources and these ideas and the like. And one of the things that we've come across, and I'd like to demonstrate it for you, as we think about the different symptoms of those that have COVID-19 or frankly any virus, there are a couple of symptoms for COVID-19. There's coughing, there's body aches, there's shivers, but one really big one that happens quite often and quite frequently and quite predictably is elevated body temperature. We have come across and are helping to introduce here statewide a technology that allows organizations, whether they're mid-sized, large, small, what have you, schools and universities. We're talking to a lot now, and several have pulled the trigger in terms of ordering it. They are looking for ways to evaluate individuals with whom they come in contact as it relates to body temperature. And so what I'd like to do is I'd like to demonstrate for you all, it's a bit of a crude demonstration here. Uh-oh. You guys, yeah, okay. Move my laptop so that you can see the device. And then we're just gonna do a couple passes by it. And what you'll see is that this device will, within 2 to 3 seconds, measure and evaluate an individual's body temperature remotely, much like a no-touch thermometer does. And it gives you a reading as to whether or not, well, one, what's the person's body temperature, and then two, whether or not he or she has violated body temperature parameters. So let me move the thing here. So here over my shoulder is the device. It's called the AITSS, and that stands for AI, or Artificial Intelligence Temperature Sensing System. And as you can see, it's about the size of by comparison to my hand, it's about the size of an oversized cell phone. And what you can do is just kind of come up to it, and it automatically, again, within 3 seconds, evaluates. Nope, go ahead.
The temperature is normal, unregistered. Please wear a mask.
So I'm not sure, if you step out of it, I'm not sure if you all could see and hear everything, but my assistant here has stepped into the field of view. It turned on, it evaluated her temperature, and it said her temperature is normal. She is an unregistered visitor, so she's not in a database, which this device can keep. And that she does not have a mask on. So if she were to put a mask on and revisit and do this again, let's see. Oops, let's see.
The temperature is normal, unregistered.
So you see there it says that her temperature is normal and she's still unregistered. Just kind of in closing, and this device is part of, or is a tool in the toolbox of some of the individuals that are charged with helping to bring a workforce back up to speed safely. So if there are any questions later on, I'd be more than happy, of course, to answer them. But again, I do thanks for your attention.
Thanks so much, Kennon. That was so great. In the chat, Jeff wrote, "It was good that your assistant is healthy," or "Great job, your assistant is healthy." And I just laughed because I said, boy, that would have been something if she wasn't. Talk about a demo. I think we need to talk to Christian about the healthcare benefits then. So, but that was excellent. Thank you so much. So I thought about you too, LaFarn. I know LaFarn in her class that she's taking for technology, I'm sure this is probably in the advanced column, because that is some pretty fancy technology stuff that you got there. So there is a question that'll be coming to you about the cost of the device. So we'll be getting that to you at the end. We'll kind of lump them all together here at the end, okay? So I'm sure you have some questions coming at you. But now we're going to introduce our final speaker, Sharon Dabney-Wooldridge. She is the founder, owner, and president of the Kleane Kare Team. Ms. Dabney-Wooldridge has built one of Virginia's most successful residential, commercial, and governmental facilities and environmental service small businesses. Her belief in environmentally safe services and products positions the Kleane Kare Team miles ahead of traditional contract facility firms. They provide you and your employees with a hygienic, healthy workplace because you deserve it. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Sharon Dabney-Wooldridge. And we're going to unmute you, Sharon. We're going to try to unmute you.
Can you hear me?
You sound great.
Okay. Hi. Good afternoon, everyone. I trust everyone is safe and well. Thank you for inviting me today to talk to everyone about cleaning applications. Well, first of all, about the reopening, how that's going to impact you and your employees going forward. And I'm going to touch a little bit about cleaning applications and cleaning for health today. First, I want to talk about let's get the dialogue right, because as the coronavirus has been identified as an enveloped virus similar to influenza, we have proven cleaning methodology and protocols which we can bring to bear as we try to combat its spread. However, the amount of misinformation or misuse of industry terminology by official bodies and many cleaning customers is leading to greater confusion and a higher risk in spread of the coronavirus. So I want to let's start by defining three terms in our industry: cleaning, sanitizing, and disinfecting. All right, what is cleaning? Cleaning is the removal of visible and invisible soiling. Cleaning prepares a surface or item for disinfection. Disinfection is a process that eliminates many or all pathogenic microorganisms except bacterial spores or inanimate objects. In contrast to disinfection, which is done to kill and destroy bacteria and viruses, sanitizing is a gentler method. It is a lower in, it just lowers the level of biological agents on an object to a safe level. At this time, we do not know what a safe level of sanitizing for COVID-19 is. Therefore, disinfection will inactivate, destroy the virus if the appropriate procedures and chemicals are used. There are three different levels of the disease threat related to COVID-19. And the level one is, which means no infections, disease threat, which you would normally use your normal SOP, which is covered should be covered under your standard cleaning procedures, which KleaneKare, we are certified through SIMS, and our employees or staff teaming folks are trained to the basic certified custodial technician program. So that is, and number one means that you can do that, your standard cleaning procedures. Number two is an infectious disease threat in the community, or you just want to be proactive as a front line of defense, disinfect and disinfections to cover your high touch points throughout the office or your facility. And then you have level 3, which is an infectious disease outbreak in the community or in your facility. And at that point is when you typically would bring in a certified contractor or vendor to decontaminate the area. And then there's certain assessments that they have to go through in order to do that. But the main thing I want to bring across to people in order to not to have the spread is 3 simple things. Do your social distancing, wear your mask, and wash your hands. Washing your hands is the clear defense of spreading any type of viral disease. That is so important. And then encourage your employees to stay at home when they're sick. Don't have them, come in if they're feeling bad. Just encourage them to stay home, especially during this time. We don't have a vaccine, or the testing is still a little sketchy, but they're working on the testing and trying to making sure that it's available to everybody. But just do your social distance and wash your hands. I can't stress that enough. And then also making sure that you have in your facility or your work area some cleaning disinfectant or cleaning supplies with you so you can clean your area appropriately. However, we are a cleaning company. We'll come in and do initial clean, but the area is only as clean as that person who just came and touched the area. So you will constantly, your folks need to be washing their hands and just cleaning the area. Now, as an example, we have a couple of our clients who, to give a sense of comfort to their employees, we have a day porter who comes in for a few hours during the day, and he or she just kind of go around in the facility and wipe down those high touch areas, doorknobs, elevator buttons, phones, water coolers, those common areas. So, and that's what we do. Matter of fact, I got a crew out today with one of our potential clients. We just signed a contract last week, but they had a person in their office setting was tested positive for COVID. And so we had to go in and rope off the area and then clean it. So they're in there today doing the decontamination today. So those are kind of the things that you just need to practice at all times. And it's a lot of information. It changes daily, but if you can just stay constant to the washing of the hands and the social distancing and your mask, you should be good. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Sharon. Okay, so everyone, we're going to open it up to Q&A. I have a question for everybody, but I'll wait my turn. I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, and Catherine is going to help us guide through Q&A. Any questions that people have. So again, if you could put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. We practiced that before, and if you raise your hand, we'll make sure you unmute your mic and we'll call on you so that you can ask your question live, okay? So Catherine, please start us off with our Q&A.
Thank you, Andrea. So thank you so much to all of our speakers. Great information for today. We do have a couple questions, and some I'm sure will roll in as we move, but let's start with Mr. Ridley's first question, which was for Mr. Artis, which is, what is the cost of the device that you provided or showed us?
Thanks for that question. So there are 2 versions of the device. One is a standalone version, which we call V1, and that standalone version operates just as it suggests it operates. It just kind of sits there. It's not connected to anything else aside from the wall. That that unit is $23.99, and the V2 is a network version, which means that you can connect it to your facility's network. You can connect it to any kind of controlled entrances. So if someone violates temperature parameters and the like, then the entrance won't open. That unit is $29.99, and both units, or either unit, comes with a desk stand, which is what we demonstrated today. There's an optional floor stand, so it's freestanding, which is $300. Now, for MBL members, we're offering our cooperative contract pricing, which is an 8% discount.
So I just want to be clear too. It's 2,300 and then 2,900 for the other model.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So 2,700 and 3,000.
Got it. Okay, perfect. Great way to say that.
I was like, oh, $29.99. Sign me up for
Yeah,
3 of
was
them. I was
thinking
like,
the same thing. I want to get some of those.
but wait,
okay,
if
so
you
you get
order
a
now,
row.
you get.
Yeah, knew that was too good to be true.
I know it.
Psych, right? So,
Thank you for that clarification.
yes, thank you. That makes a big difference, quite a big difference, but still worthwhile. So we received a question from Mr. Haskins, and this question is for you, Ms. Sharon. It is, does the cleaning of surfaces once per day in public places really make a difference?
Well, as I initially stated, yes, it makes a difference only for that time when you clean it. An area is only as clean as the person who last touched it. So that's why it's so important that people constantly wash their hands, because people are always touching things. And, you know, you can't have a day porter to go in that goes in and wipe down the often touched areas, frequently touched areas throughout the day. But again, at the end of the day, people need to wash their hands, keep their mask on, and stay at home if they're sick.
Great advice. Yeah, so many people. I have a question, and this could be for either you, Mr. Artis, or you, Ms. Sharon. When do you know the difference between, or how do you decipher between allergies and then what might be COVID? You know, we see a lot of people and they get very nervous, but when this all started hitting, it was when allergy season started. So in that particular case, what kind of advice could you give people? Like, you know, don't freak out, you know, it could just be, so I mean, from that standpoint, what would you?
Well, I can speak to it because I do have allergies. And I know when this thing first started coming out, you know, I had a cough allergy and folks in my office was looking at me like I had 10 heads. But first of all, you let people know, first of all, it's allergies. I do not have a temperature. That's all it is. You know, you let people know that, you know, you do have allergies and, you know, that you have no temperature.
Thank you.
I would agree with that. I guess the only thing that I would add is that, you know, generally speaking, healthcare facilities will accept an individual for a COVID test if they feel that legitimately, you know, they could be infected with COVID, right? So keeping in mind as well, I suffer from allergies too. So the sneezing's there, the lethargy is there, et cetera. But there are other symptoms that also could accompany COVID that may not be associated with an allergy, right? They're chills, they're shivering, and those sorts of things. So those are some of the distinguishing factors. I say all of that with the caveat that, you know, of course, there's this whole idea of being asymptomatic, right? You could have the COVID and virus and display no symptoms. So in a nutshell, I think, you know, gee, if you feel as though there's an issue, you can go to an emergency room or whatever and get a test.
Understood. Thank you so much, both of you, for that.
And can I piggyback again? I do want to say that it's a community responsibility, and when I mean community, the workplace, that everybody should kind of, you know, clean behind themselves, wash their hands, wipe down surfaces with a CDC approved disinfectant cleaner, because the cleaners, like I say, it's clean after we leave in the evening, but when you have the first 2 or 3 people who come in the office, then it's no longer clean. Now we do have a purpose though, because we still have to vacuum and dust and clean your restrooms thoroughly. But in there right now, as we're going through this, it's going to have to be a community responsibility in keeping our surfaces clean. So make sure that you have adequate cleaning supplies in your workplace so that, everybody can share in that responsibility.
Thank you. Yeah. Motto at my house is a clean house is a happy house. That's what we say here. So, so we try that. We do have a question for Christian. So you're up, sir. So can you explain, well, it's more like I want your info on it. What is, can you talk a little bit about government compensation as far as employees and getting sick with COVID? How would you sum that up?
Mm-hmm. So you're talking about like the options of employees that are sick, or?
Yeah, so government compensation for employees that get sick with COVID.
Yeah, so right now they've extended some earning codes, like FMLA, they extended. There's also specific earnings that you can have so COVID, I mean, just like any other sickness, it's kind of based also on the employer. Now the government is helping obviously with the small business packages. And like I said, they are extending certain earning codes like family medical leave and different things like that, which I believe COVID-19 actually is covered under family medical leave. But other than that, as far as the actual government doing things specifically for people who are sick with COVID, it kind of falls back on the employer. And that's why I mentioned how it's so important, especially to have the health insurance and to have the policies in place for your employees from the get-go.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. Good to know on that. But that leads me to my next question, which is about someone possibly suing you for getting COVID-19. Mm-hmm. Is it possible for the employer to be sued if one of their workers gets COVID-19 in the workplace?
Yeah, so I've actually worked with a couple of small businesses that have asked that same question, Catherine, and honestly, there has not been any specific guidelines that we have been given at this time. For example, if you open back up your restaurant and someone comes in, and they assume, it's very tough to prove in a legal realm where you caught it from.
Yes.
Just because you have to go to the grocery store, especially if you're working, you have to get gas, and the incubation period is 2 to 14 days. It's just very hard to prove that you exactly got it, unless obviously if someone from your restaurant staff or someone from your business personally has it.
Yeah. And that is true, because I just sent that question to my attorney last couple of days about that type of legal liability, and that is correct. They can't prove that, hey, you got it from your employer. Far as COVID. Now, as far as making an employee come to work if they're, don't feel comfortable, then and you force them to come to work, then that's right. Another story. But yes, don't force. If an employee doesn't feel comfortable, you should not force them to come to work.
That was my next question that I was going to ask is when do you draw the line between, someone coming and just getting their temperature taken before they enter their workplace versus now it becomes personal space and now you're starting to violate their, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's more of a legal question, but if anybody maybe has some thoughts on that.
Can you clarify that question again, Catherine?
Yeah. So what is the line? Like, where does it cross the line versus going in? Because I know some places with their employees, they'll just make them take their temperature as they, before they clock into work. But when does it cross the line where your employer asks you to do so many different things to, and then it just sort of kind of violates your rights and that kind of stuff?
Well, I think as long as the employer, my stand is if I'm staying within the CDC guidelines, then I think I would be well within my right to ask the employee to do these things such as the social distancing, the mask wearing, and the washing of your hands. that's about all you can ask an employee to do. I mean, the temperature taking, that I don't think that's odd, because you do that before you can go into a medical facility. That we have to, our cleaners, because we clean several medical facilities, and before we enter, we have to have our temperature taken.
That seems to be the new norm these days.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
no, I was saying that to piggyback off Sharon, I think Mark Cuban said it. It's just such a fine line between obviously letting your employees back early, or like being one of the first companies to let your employees back early, or waiting, until this whole thing clears to let them back. It's such a tough call that obviously if you're within CDC guidelines, it's up to the employer. Completely, as long as you're, like Sharon said, wearing masks, washing your hands, social distancing. But that's such a thin line, and that's why I talked about the remote thing, because giving your employees an option, if you can, to work remote, would significantly help, I believe.
And I had my attorney, we drew up a COVID policy for because we had to work, we were essential. So we had a COVID policy to further, lessen any type of litigation, because we've put out there what the safety measures are for you to be at work. And as long as, we've put it in writing, and they signed the a waiver, or what, not a waiver, but they signed that they understood what the policy meant, then that kind of lessened our exposure.
Just to piggyback on that real quickly. I think that's one of the things that we're finding a lot of the smarter, for lack of better terminology, organizations is doing, is putting a policy in place, right? Because it shows a couple things. One, that they've kind of thought about it, and should it ever make it to litigation or what have you. And of course, this isn't the specific reason. I mean, the reason is you want to keep folks safe, but should it make it to sort of that litigation stage, the feedback that we're getting is that kind of gives you a degree of coverage or protection, if you will.
And then we send out also an email blast to all our employees. We send out that same reminder of being safe. Every 2 weeks, we send out an email blast to them about being safe in the workplace.
Got it. Andrea, did you have a question?
Yes. What is in such a policy? If there was an example of a COVID policy, what would be in said policy? Couple bullet points.
Yeah, sure.
Well,
go ahead. No, please go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't have, attorney's going to make a little bit more wordy than what I'm getting ready to tell you, but the crust of it is those CDC guidelines. That would be in it. The social distancing, the wearing of the mask, washing your hands, and stay at home if you're sick.
I couldn't agree more, right? So it needs to be embedded in, some sort of authoritative guidance or what have you. In addition to that, however, it really needs to be specific to your organization, right? So as an example, we got the question when we're presenting the device to someone. Okay, so, Sally Jones, she's pregnant. And so, as is the case quite frequently, when women expecting or women who are expecting, sometimes will run a temperature. And well, maybe Sally Jones isn't ready yet to share with the rest of the world that she's expecting. So how do we deal with that? My answer is, well, I don't know, right? I mean, this isn't an end-all be-all. That needs to be in your policy, right? And so these are the types of things that you really ought to, so it's more than just kind of throwing something together and saying, hey, we got it. But there needs to be some thought behind it.
And I would highly recommend you get an attorney to assist you with that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And is this something that people sign? You had your employees sign it, recognizing they read it and they signed it? Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
All right. Well, everybody, this is the time of day where we go into our 8-minute mark of our lightning round. So any questions that you might have, please go ahead and put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we will unmute you so you have access to speak. Any other questions?
I know we had one from Erica and then one for both for Sharon. Erica says, I have a question for Sharon. Would you please recommend, or would you recommend wearing gloves in public places?
Well, you can wear gloves, but again, because I wear gloves sometimes, but I'll wear gloves, like say for instance, I'm going to Lowe's and I'm going to be touching several things and I'll wear the gloves. And when I come out, it's a proper way to take the gloves off and properly dispose of the gloves, but then I still have my hand sanitizer to wipe, wash, do my hands with the hand sanitizers before I get in my vehicle.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Kat.
So Sharon, you mentioned doorknobs, elevators, door handles, so on and so forth. So if you were making a checklist for a small business, what would you put on it?
Well, I do have a checklist. Matter of fact, it's called routine cleaning. And let me see if I can find that real quickly for you. Let's see where I have it here. Let's see, it's here. High contact surfaces include, but not limited to, handrails, doorknobs, key cards, light switches, countertops, water faucets, and handles, work surfaces, computer key pads and mouses, elevator buttons, sinks, toilets, control handles, restroom stall handles, toilet paper and other paper dispensers, door handles and push plates, water cooler, and drinking fountain control. Like I said, that's just some, but not limited to.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. We might have to re-say that at some point so we can send it to everyone.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, thank you to all of our speakers today for all of your words of wisdom and for your help with this. I think it's definitely going to be beneficial to all of us here. If you would provide your information in the chat so that we can go ahead and add it and send anybody who would like it, as well as in the after email that we send out, that would be great. Ms. Sharon, if you have any tips or if you want to send that checklist out, we can do that. And Christian, if you have any points, you can send those out. And Mr. Artis, if you want to send any information on those amazing $29.99 devices, that would be excellent as well. So
there was one more question, Kat, right before.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Yeah, right. Well, she just sent it in, so I wanted Sharon to get it, and then we'll close up after
Connie, we cannot forget Miss Connie. I heard a term of dwell time for disinfectants to work correctly. Is that true, Ms. Sharon?
Yes, it is. 10 minutes. You should leave it on 10 minutes dwell time.
10 minutes dwell time. Hashtag 10 minutes dwell time. I like it. All right, great. All right, any other questions? Okay. All right, everybody, thanks again so much. Miss Melody, we're sending it right back to you.
This information was, am I muted?
Yeah, you're here, we hear you.
Okay. This information was so helpful. I think, and we kind of loosely talked about it earlier, there's so much information that's being provided, and we have a tendency to be confused by some of it, but this was really clear. This is extremely helpful. I want to say thank you so much to Christian, Kennon, and Sharon for carving time out of your day to share such valuable information. To our attendees, thank you for spending your lunch hour with us. We are hopeful you are leaving the session more informed and encouraged, thanks to the gems provided to us by our speakers today. We ask that you continue to support the MBL Town Hall Series by saving the date and attending next Thursday, June 4th at 12 p.m., where we will be collaborating with our community partner, Richmond Region Tourism and BLKRVA. Our topic will be Onward, reactivating the region's economy through small business, event recruitment, and visitors' experiences. In closing, we ask that you continue to follow us on our social media platforms, to include Facebook at the MBL and Instagram at MBLRVA for the latest information on resources, programming, and special events in support of small women and minority-owned businesses. Thank you again, everyone, for your time. Make it a great day.